Many parents love to share about their children's lives online with close friends, but what happens when it starts to become a business? The dangers of sharenting and kidfluencing are very real and can have dangerous effects on a child's emotional and physical well-being. Sarah Adams, also known as Mom Uncharted on social media, is an advocate for children, explaining that kids have a right to privacy, informed consent, and online safety. Sarah, this is like so exciting for me because we've been online friends for a while.
Yes.
And we're actually IRL.
Yes.
So awesome. And then
Huge.
just starting right off the bat, like, kids are not content.
Yeah.
That is your phrase. You coined it, and everybody should just remember it.
I appreciate having the credit because I've been saying that for a long time. Kids are not content. And if you want to know more, check out the website because I have a whole website called Kids Are Not Content where parents can learn more about these issues.
.com?
.com.
Great. Kidsarenotcontent.com. If you take nothing else away
there
from
we go,
this time,
right?
we have spoon-fed it to you.
Yeah.
But for those of you who don't know Sarah, let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
How did you get into this space? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm a married mom of two children under the age of 7, and I had my first in late 2017, and I think it kind of goes back to 2017 because I was on Instagram. I was kind of a ghost scroller, but I followed a lot of like mom stuff. You know, people were having, a lot of the influencers I followed were having babies around the same time. I thought I'd find community. I thought I'd find some tips, some tricks, some products I liked and things like that. And at the time, I didn't really see any issues with it. And fast forward to 2020, I had a baby during the pandemic. We all go online more. And all of a sudden, I'm overwhelmed with what I am seeing parents share, from my friends to these influencers. And it started to make me feel a little uncomfortable. And one day, an influencer I had followed for a long time was sharing a medical emergency of her child. And it was like a light bulb went off. And I just thought, why do I know this? I'm a stranger. Why do I have such access to this child's medical information and watching him in the hospital?
Such intimate details.
Yes,
Yeah.
it just felt wrong. And from that moment, I started talking to my husband and friends about like, hey, don't you think this is weird? Like, has it all gone too far? And I guess I kept talking until they said, well, what are you going to do? You seem interested in this topic. And I secretly downloaded TikTok because I knew friends and family weren't there, but that's where everyone was during the pandemic. And I thought I could offer a different opinion and also find like-minded parents who also believe maybe this has gone too far.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. It was something that needed to be said, period. We're also afraid of like offending people and walking on eggshells because we want to be liked and accepted. But like some things need to be brought to light and stopped.
Yeah, I was quite polarizing when I came on the scene. I don't think I was welcomed with open arms.
Which is wild.
And it was quite an adjustment as someone who had never really been active on social media at all. So I'm learning this app. I'm learning social media. I'm mildly being attacked for my views and opinions. Things are going viral. You've never gone viral before. It was a learning curve, but it's great to see the progress that has been made over the past few years, because fast forward 3-4 years later, it's wildly different.
Mm-hmm.
It's wildly different. And thankfully, people seem to be opening up their eyes and coming over to my side.
Yes. Yes.
Our side.
Our side. Yeah. You used the term ghost scrolling, which
Yes.
let's put a pin in that because that's a whole episode. You know, we talk about doom scrolling a lot, but ghost scrolling, whole nother thing.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people forget how many people can see their content.
Exactly.
Just-
who aren't interacting, who
Nope.
aren't liking, who aren't
Nope.
commenting,
Mm-mm.
who aren't even following a lot of the
Mhm,
time,
mhm,
right?
right.
So think about that, parent.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So I became a mom in 2009.
Mhm.
And back at that time, there was even more oversharing.
Yeah.
In fact, there were entire businesses and livelihoods now being made just from sharing the content of children before anybody was sounding the alarm. And so I'm acutely aware of that, not only because I observed it and worked with certain brands to partner with these moms, but also as a mom myself. I'll never forget checking in on my BlackBerry on Facebook in the hospital, giving birth to my son. Now, at the time, I probably only had 200 to 300 friends. I wasn't like a public figure. But still, 300 people did not need to know where my son was born, what time, no. It was the norm.
And you know what? Some would argue that's still the norm for a lot of people. The birth announcements with the full names, the location, the birth date. I'm sure we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But this is really, it's information that frankly shouldn't be shared online for a variety of reasons.
100%.
Yeah.
And so anything that I say today, if it comes across as judgmental, just know it's coming from a place of, I made a lot of these mistakes. Wish I could take them back. My family has literally been harmed by some of these mistakes, and I can't take them back. Right? So just do as I say and not as I did.
Well said, right?
Yeah.
Not as I did.
Yeah. So outside of the I would say minor, which could lead to major implications of sharenting online, like now everybody knows what the outside of your house looks like. Now everybody knows whose classroom your child is in every day, where your kid plays sports, where you guys like to go on vacation and when. What can sharenting lead to? Let's talk more about like the sextortion and just the embarrassment for children.
Okay, so the first thing I always think of is privacy, right? These children have no control over the images or information that is being shared about them publicly. Sometimes from the moment they are born, right?
Consent.
Consent. That is a lengthy digital footprint. They don't even know the definition of privacy or the power of privacy before it is completely stripped away from them. And that is very concerning. And I think that also leads to, some potential future consequences or psychological impacts. How are they going to feel about this? Are they going to feel violated?
Resentful,
right? There is a trust between the parent and child relationship. Are they going to feel that has been broken? Are they going to feel that they were portrayed publicly as they authentically feel? Or is that a character that their parents have made of who they are and who they want their child to represent in relationship to them, right? I think about identity theft. I think about fraud. I think about data harvesting. Our kids are becoming data points, right? Their image and their information with AI and facial recognition systems, like where's all this information going? Like, who has control over? What does it mean for their future, right? And then the bad actors. The bad actors, as you said, sextortion, the risk of exploitation is just so vast, right? I think it was the Australian e-safety commissioner a few years ago said that when they looked on predatory forums, over 50% of the content was just taken from parents' social media, right? You add in the advancements of AI, you add in deep fakes. I've seen some of these forums, especially with the children of influencers or kid influencers, and it is devastating the way these individuals speak about these children online, the images they are sharing. And to think that a child might Google their name one day and find this it's honestly horrific. I can't even imagine the potential trauma that comes from that.
In no other place or space would we parade our children around so publicly and invite the abuse, I would say. And it just isn't common, I don't think, knowledge to parents, just the depth and breadth of it. And we'll get to that in a minute. Two things that popped into my ADHD brain as you were talking. One is I just saw something this morning as I was scrolling, which is the latest kind of thing in the AI world is teachers and or parents uploading the actual class photo of a graduating class to ChatGPT or whatever and asking it to turn into a coloring page so that they can distribute, everybody can color it, and it sounds like a really fun activity if you don't understand the implications of your child's likeness being uploaded to an open source platform.
Yes.
So anyway, that's where we are.
Yes.
And then the second thing, which I've already forgot, but now I remembered again, thank you, coffee and God, is the bullying.
Oh.
Because of my trajectory and career in creating content online, which I really don't share anything really about my family other than I have one.
Yes. Same Z.
Yeah. But I did, I made a mention. I used a hook, right? Because if you're creating content, you want to use a hook to catch people so they'll scroll. And I said something that some people could infer as to something that was happening with my son when in fact it wasn't. And a lot of kids in his grade at the time took that and used that to bully him when in fact it wasn't happening to him. And it broke my heart to know he was a target, and it broke my heart to know that because I did something online, he was on the receiving end of pain and exclusion. And I'm still upset about it, right? And not only that, but friends, your kids' friends are taking the images that you put of them online, even if you have a private account, if they friend you or their moms are friends with you, they can get those screenshots and then they can make memes and bully and create fake AI-generated nudes, and your child can be the victim of AI-generated CSAM, child sexual abuse material, without ever having taken a nude. So, we could go on and on about all the worst-case scenarios.
Well, these are all stories we hear all the time. My messages are full of parents saying, my child's peers are going back into Facebook groups and, finding photos and talking about them and sharing them on Snapchat and things like this. I remember a mom reaching out to me, and her daughter was going out on a date with somebody, and she went and found the mother's profile and scrolled back to him being in diapers essentially. And she just felt like it feels so violating because now she's not even authentically getting to know him. She's already seen him in diapers. She knows about his athletic career during junior high and things like this. And it feels wrong to know that before a first date. And I thought that was really interesting too.
That's wild.
It is wild.
Oh my gosh. Why do you think parents have such a hard time wrapping their brains around how damaging filming or capturing every single thing their child does and putting it online for the world to see is?
I think a lot is because we've normalized this. We've just normalized sharing everything. We've normalized constantly having our smartphone in our hand and that ding thinking, oh, we should film this. We should capture this for later. When now we are creating this barrier between us and our children, and we're no longer looking into their eyes because we're looking at them through a screen trying to capture something because we're thinking that someone online, some strangers, some followers might like it, or it might be a good viral video and things like this. And I think we are losing the plot a little in trying to capture our children's childhood, that we are not being fully present in our children's childhood. And I think a lot also is, as long as we've been online, you would think these conversations aren't new, but they are relatively new, especially with the rise of AI and things like that. We weren't talking about this side as often as we were talking about, sharing on Instagram and things like that. So I think a lot of parents are just not as informed. They're not learning about this in Lamaze class. They're not, they're not thinking about the digital risk and things like that. And I think that needs to be taught for new parents, soon to be parents, that we're living our life online, and therefore we need to prioritize how we share or don't share our kids, and why it's important, and why we are sitting here having this conversation.
Totally. I would say part of it is not parents' fault.
Yeah.
Because the largest tech companies, social media, digital devices have gamified this act, using psychological digital reinforcements that spike our dopamine. It feels good to share. It feels good to get that feedback about your most precious thing in the whole wide world, your child. That's part of your heart. You're getting that digital social reinforcement, and it encourages you to want to do it more. So you have to almost break the cycle of addiction of look at me, look at my family, look at, reinforce it. That's not what it's about. It's very different to post anything of your family on social media. Again, even if you have a private account, even if you only have, let's say, 50 to 100 close friends and family on there, because that's another entity that is benefiting from monetizing your content, your children. It's much better to text the photo or the video to text,
email,
grandparent, best friend.
I really like that you touched on the addiction aspect that parents and adults are facing. I think that's something that's not talked about as much, but, many of us, not me because I don't partake in this, but many parents out there are addicted. They're addicted to the dopamine hit. They're addicted to the fame and fortune that comes with sharing these images and things like that. And that's a problem. You're turning your children into like essentially currency, You've
100%.
turned them into content, right? And for a lot of these individuals in the realm of influencers and family vloggers, like now their children are like solely providing for them and their lifestyle. And, that leads into a whole different conversation.
Yeah, we'll get there in a minute.
Okay, girl.
But just to reiterate, when you post pictures, videos of not even your children, but just your family online, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, they are making money off of you.
Yes.
Whether or not you're monetizing it or not, they are making money off of you because that incentivizes everybody you follow and are friends with and follows you to spend more time in that app. And then those platforms sell essentially share of eyeballs. So they're making money off of you.
Yeah, we're all products to them.
We're all products. So keep that in mind.
Yes, please.
Now, it seems like every kid these days wants to be an influencer. And I get it. If I was 13, I would absolutely want to be on that train, right? Of look at me, like me, follow me. I want to make some money. I want that social reinforcement from my peers. I want to be accepted. I want to be cool. So I get it. But can you speak to this? And specifically, should parents support their kids who want to be influencers?
So I don't want parents out there, crushing children's dreams and things like that. But I think it's really important to remind children that they only get one childhood. They only get one time to be a kid. And being an influencer is often a full-time job. And that's not something that they should be worried about right now. That doesn't mean that, it's off the table. There's other ways that we can foster their interest. For example, get them into a videography course or public speaking or theater or
graphic design,
marketing, right? Things that will allow them to be ahead of the game when they are older to explore being an influencer. But it's our job as parents to say no sometimes. And no is often a lot harder than saying yes. But in regard to this, I just don't think it is healthy for their mental health and their well-being to be in this world at such a young age. Your brain isn't fully developed until they're 25. So when a kid's coming at you at 8 or 9 saying, I'm ready to be an influencer, put me out there, coach.
No, you're not.
I just don't think that to be the case. And not specifically Instagram, but social media, I often refer to kind of as like a dumpster fire of humanity right now.
Hornet's nest.
You know what I mean? It's not the most positive space right now. It's negative. I have seen, comments adults bullying children, harassing children. There are accounts that are based around children, but most of their engagement is negative towards the child. Influencing is just not for kids.
It's absolutely not. And I'm so glad you brought that up. I would say probably 0.01% of the children who really do want to be in front of a camera, have some sort of talent musically, comedically, whatever, and have parents who are intentional and thoughtful about what they put out there and how it's managed and keeping the kid away from the comments. And if there's monetization, putting it into a trust that like pays for, like I'd say 0.01% of the time that can actually be done well.
Yeah.
And 99.9% of the time, it won't be.
Yeah.
Because of what we've seen, not just because we're like, you know,
well,
militant.
And I think we have to also look at, you know, child actors. They're kind of the first iteration of this, right? And so when I saw Demi Lovato, who was instrumental in passing we'll call it the child influencer bill in the state of California, when she was asked about her future children potentially entering the entertainment industry, she basically said, no, not until they're older. Yeah. Like I will foster their creativity in other ways and local ways, but no, I wouldn't want my kid to have the same lifestyle I had. And I think that's very interesting if you look at the kids that came before.
Totally. I'm remembering when my son and his friend, who shall remain nameless, but if he or his family are listening, like you definitely know who you are. They were like, we're going to create a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I was like, in my head, like, hell no.
Yep.
But I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, well, what are you going to name it? Like, how are you going to stand out? Do you know how many kids have channels on YouTube?
Yep.
What's going to make people care about yours? And you could just see their little brains
wheels.
Being like, oh.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, I mean, if you're going to be online and have it be successful, you need to have a strong brand, something people need to care about. And I was like, so come to me with your proposal of like what you're going to put out in the world that is new and innovative and helpful. And then we'll talk about it.
I'd say one of the questions I get asked most regularly is, my kid wants a YouTube channel. What do I say? What do I do? Yeah. And I usually start with, you know, tell them it's your responsibility to protect their brain and their mental health. And you've done a lot of research on the subject and you don't think it will be beneficial for them at this time. However, as we already talked about, you know, foster their interests in other ways. And if they want to be on YouTube on the big screen, you can have a private account that you send to grandma and they can watch, right? Because for a lot of these kids, they just want to see themselves on a screen. They just want to see themselves on the YouTube app. And that is something that can be done totally private and safely. Yeah. And they don't have to have the external validation or be thrown into that world. And if they take it seriously, then they have all of this content from their private account that if they want to release later on in their late teenage, early adult years, they can, and they're ahead of the game. Again, you're not crushing their dream. You're fostering it in another way. And it's a little loophole to say yes to YouTube in a way.
Yes,
right?
I love that. Yeah. Yes, like, hey, cool. Let's work on creating some really awesome videos.
Yeah.
Let's upload them privately.
Exactly.
Unlisted. We're not going to share these links publicly.
You can pick 5 people that you want to share with in our social circle, you know, cool Uncle Bobby, grandma, you know, your best friend, things like that. Yeah. We keep it small, we keep it private, and you can play around.
Sounds
and
fun.
I'm okay with that.
Love it.
Right?
Love it.
Right?
Love it.
With lots of supervision, of
Lots
course.
Of supervision.
Yes.
Now, on the flip side, you know, we just talked about uploading videos to a platform that now owns the rights to your content. Yep. You said that there is no magic delete button when sharing things online.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
You know, like, it's really hard to get something back once you put it out there. Mm-hmm. You know, I always say that when you post something, you immediately lose control. We talked about not knowing who follows you. Maybe someone's following you for all the wrong reasons and they're paying attention to you and they are screenshotting that story so quick. They are screen recording it. They are sending it to someone else to talk poorly about you. I've seen, you know, boards on Facebook, you know, I hate kids boards, right?
Oh my
where
gosh.
Where people go and just talk poorly about children. And a lot of the time, these people are related to these children that they are speaking ill about, right? So a screenshot happens in a second, right? And we see this happen regularly with influencers. They post something and they take it down almost immediately, but not before somebody has grabbed that video and repurposed it online, and now they're exposed, right?
Very right.
Yeah.
I'll never. You just reminded me of something that's like horrific right now.
Oh God.
I mean, not like. I mean, in the scheme of things, not
Okay.
as horrific. But so just bear with
When
me.
you say horrific,
Yeah,
I know
no.
how horrific
Got
it
it.
can
Yeah,
get.
totally. It's not that dark. But again, like early mom blogging days,
Mhm.
I remember this really influential mom blogger started this account essentially called like "My Kid is an Asshole," something like that, and it was just her particular children and other, I guess, bloggers' children like having meltdowns and like just essentially being little assholes.
Yep.
And when I first saw it, I will admit, like I laughed. I was like, "Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I can relate to this." But like within, I'd say 60 seconds, I was like, "Oh wait, like oh no, like this is not good for so many reasons." And then like how could you prioritize the fame, the Puffington Post mention, the engagement, the likes, the virality, the followers, the ability to monetize this account over what this is inevitably going to do to your child's mental and physical health?
Yeah. I think a lot of people still have that 90s like America home video
Right.
kind of mentality when it comes to videos like that. And it's vastly different in this online world. You know, back in the day, someone would submit, you know, an embarrassing video of their kid, but you know what? You wouldn't know that kid's name.
Nope.
You wouldn't know where they lived.
You
wouldn't go over and find their parents' account. That parent wasn't going viral trying to recreate that video or starting to do all this content of kids. It was still wrong, but it was vastly different than it is now.
Right.
And so I think when some people see those videos, they're like, oh, it's just like it was back in the day, these funny videos. But no, it's not like that anymore.
No.
Just today, I opened the TikTok app and somebody had sent me, because people send me.
Oh my gosh, I bet.
Yeah, people send me a lot of things that I don't want to see, but it's my fault for talking about these issues. And it was a little boy on his first day of kindergarten who was so nervous that he threw up on the bus, and like he's coming off the bus and he's covered. Yeah, he's covered in his own vomit, and he has his like name on his little kindergarten sign. And then like it cut to like him coming off the bus on his last day of kindergarten because end of school and stuff. But who wants that? What kid wants a video of them circulating online covered in their own vomit, right? For peers and classmates, teammates to find later in life, right? And he had no choice. He had no choice to share that, right? If parents think content like that is funny, then save it. Show your kid later when they have a better understanding of social media and informed consent. And at the age of 16 or 17, they can share that video of them if they choose. If they want, right? But we're stripping our kids from the right to informed consent and adding this to their digital footprint, and they very well might not want that there.
So thankfully, there have been some laws passed to at least help protect child influencers, you know, from getting wiped clean of any savings and just to help protect that level of consent in a way. But where are the laws meant to help protect children who have content on them online without their consent?
Yeah, there's not a lot of laws out there specifically in America. I know that in some European countries, it's pretty frowned upon and parents can get in trouble for posting content like that. But here, I'm not aware of any like state laws or federal laws that just protect the everyday child from having like embarrassing, traumatic, invasive photos posted online. I think a lot about the medical information specifically that parents are sharing online, and I really worry about that and the long-term effects.
I do too, and actually note to like us off camera to potentially look and see if the Kids Online Safety Act that's being proposed addresses that in any way, shape, or form. It'd be kind of wild if it didn't.
Yeah.
But stranger things have happened.
Yeah, it's been a long time with that bill.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on some of the various child-focused social media trends and challenges? I'm pretty sure I know your answer to this. It's kind of like a rhetorical question, but, the swearing in the bathroom challenge that went viral. I mean, you
Yeah.
name it.
Not for me. The egg cracking challenge, the swearing in the bathroom. I just don't understand how parents are so desperate for online attention that they would
Ew.
set up a camera in their bathroom to have their 2 or 3 year old swear profanities like it's cute. I don't know, call me a prude, but I just don't think it's cute when young children know so many swear words. I think it's okay that swearing is, for older children or young adults. I just don't get it. It's not funny to me. It's inappropriate and it's just weird. It's just weird.
I mean, here's the thing. If you, your partner, whomever, drop an F-bomb inadvertently and your 2-year-old hears it and they think that was a fun sounding word and say it out loud and you're like, oh dear, what have we done? Like, I can see how you might like giggle for a minute,
Yeah.
but like realize that's probably not what my kid should be saying at this age. But it's an entirely different thing to post it online.
Mm-hmm.
Will it get engagement? Yeah.
Yep.
Is that the right thing to do for your child's reputation? No.
Yeah.
Firm no.
No. And I think when it goes to like pranking your own children
Oh
with
my
like
gosh.
the egg cracking challenge and stuff, some parents were like aggressive with those
Right?
eggs, right?
Right?
Like, you crack the egg, you surprise them, they're crying, you're laughing at them. It just doesn't feel right
No.
as a parent. And like, I'm a pretty fun person. You might not see that on my social media. That might not come across, but I'm a generally fun person. I just came back from a girl's Mexican vacation. It was the best time of my life.
Wow.
Mom Uncharted let loose.
Yes.
So like I'm not on the really conservative side of things, but I'm just on the hold on, what are we doing?
Yeah. Let's just have
here?
some common
Yeah,
sense.
some common sense. This just doesn't need to be out in the world.
No, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I can let loose.
Exactly.
Those of you who know me know very well. However, childhood should be protected at all costs.
Yes, childhood should be protected. And I just think that, with the images and videos, there are so many. My kids are adorable. They say things, they do things. They're so funny. They're running around like Captain Underpants. It's the cutest thing you've ever seen. But it's the cutest thing I've ever seen. That doesn't mean that I want like, Paul in Nebraska who sits in his mom's basement to see that too.
Right.
Right? We need to think about who has access to these images and these videos. And I think it's really important for parents to understand that not everyone is looking at your child through the same lens.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you put that out there because again, back to the parents just don't think about the actual credible harms.
Yes.
And given that the FBI has surfaced that there's over 500,000 predators online at any given time.
Yep.
That's the known number.
Yep.
There's probably a lot more.
Yep.
Like the chances of somebody that you maybe even know and trust and love and respect looking at your child's images in a way that you would not like them to be
Yep.
is high.
I hear those stories all the time. Someone messages me and says, I just found out that, my husband's cousin was arrested for CSAM and they were on my Facebook where I share all these photos of my little girls and things like this. These are real stories that are happening every single day, right? We think, I joke about, Paul in Nebraska in his mom's basement, but a lot of the time it's a former coworker, a former classmate, a
pastor, a
lawyer,
a doctor,
police officer,
dentist,
a politician, right?
Yeah.
So another reason to be mindful.
100%. Now, what would you say to parents out there who have been posting their kids publicly for content, but are now feeling conflicted about it?
I would say I commend you. I commend you, and it's never too late to prioritize your child's right to privacy. I think it would be silly as an advocate for child's privacy to sit here and be like, well, it's too late for you, Deborah, right? Like, we can always make a change. We can always improve. We can't take back what we shared. It might have gone somewhere, but delete the photos. Delete them. Go private. Stop sharing. Share images from your child from behind or not at all, right? It's never too late to make a change, especially with what we know now and the advancements in technology. You know, I think it was Oxford recently put out a study in regard to like the Nudify apps, and it only takes like, you know, very limited photos to get really accurate portrayals of.
Yes. And not only that, but, you know, somebody can take a picture you've posted, upload it to, I won't name the places in case you're a creepy person listening to this, and triangulate basically where you live. Like work backwards and detective work, and it's just, the risks aren't worth it.
It's shocking how many parents share images and videos like in front of their houses.
The front of their house.
And with their kids and their, or like
with their name, the address number,
their school logo, or like in front of like Middleborough Public School. It's just, we're giving people too much access, you know, personable, identifiable information like your address, where your kids go to school, full names, birthdays. They should just not be shared online. One thing that parents, I don't think, are aware of, it's going to lead to identity theft. You know, these people out there are banking on a lot of this information and trying to use it and open credit cards and credit lines and things like that later in life. And that could really be devastating to a child who's just starting their adult journey.
You made me think of something, the list of alert types that Bark Technologies will alert parents to. So in addition to like anxiety, depression, phishing, sextortion, like we're going to alert you when there's been a data breach, disclosure of personal information, medically concerning content, predatory behavior, sexual content, like that, like there's so much of this happening that we have a company that is built upon making sure you realize when this has happened to your child. So just shout out to our engineering team that has built this algorithm and tech that helps to help parents understand when their kid has encountered this. Even if you are not posting content of your child online, if your child has access to the internet in any way, shape, or form, they're putting stuff online.
Oh, they are putting stuff online, baby.
So on that note, back to my notes. Thank God for notes.
Yeah.
And Sam, shout out to Sam. I started watching this documentary on Netflix called Bad Influence, The Dark Side of Kidfluencing.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, there you are. Hey. I was like, I know her.
Surprise.
So like, outside of just being horrified and like my stomach turning from what was happening.
It's a hard watch.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah. It's a hard one.
Talk to me about anything that you want to talk to me about that.
Yeah, well, it was nice to be included. You know, I film a lot of different documentaries and things, and you never know how much you're going to make it, if you're going to make the final cut. So it was nice to see myself featured.
Yeah, you were on the screen.
In there. I was there. And it's a really heartbreaking story, and one that I wasn't aware of until I became Mom Uncharted. The only reason why I ever found out about this young girl and her mother, Piper Raquel is the child, Tiffany Raquel Smith is the mother, is because someone asked in my comment section the week the lawsuit initially broke. And I said, what is this? And boy, did I go down a rabbit hole on that one. And this is just a young girl who has been exploited her entire life.
Horrifically.
And
her friend group.
And her friend group were also exploited, and they sued her mother for a variety of things, and they settled out of court. And, you know, Piper keeps on going. And I wish her all the best. I want all the best for that young girl who has been through so much. But I think it's important for society to see the dark side of this industry. And I think they did a really good job speaking about it.
Yeah, it's a 3-part series,
Yeah.
right? And so I'd say for your older children, at least the first 2 episodes, because the third one gets into some sexual abuse stuff
Yes.
that might be just too hard to process.
Yes.
But at least the first 2 episodes, maybe watch it with your kids.
Yeah.
Help them to understand that when they are consuming content of kid influencers, which I would understand why they would want to, whether it's unboxing or whatever, that they're not getting the full picture.
No.
And these children are under a lot of pressure.
Yep.
Abuse,
Yep.
sleep deprivation, their mental and physical health most likely is being negatively impacted.
Yes.
And it's just important for your kids not even to stop consuming that content, although I'd argue they should, but just to understand that there's more to the story.
Yeah. And I think speaking more to the story, you know, the story continues because now she is about to turn 18.
Wow.
And what does that mean?
What does that mean?
As a young girl who has been essentially like groomed in this hypersexualized nature and is now associating with adult creators before being of legal age and having a very young and impressionable audience, right? To be seen.
Yeah, I pray for wisdom and healing for her because I believe they are both needed, as well as her mother and the boyfriend or whatever he is now, the videographer. I think everybody needs a very strong wake-up call.
Yep.
And course correct.
I also think it's really important to note that this is all this young girl knows. She knows nothing else.
Agree.
Right?
You cannot fault her.
No, there is no fault to be had on her. This is all she knows. This is what she has been groomed,
manipulated.
To be manipulated. She probably has a very low sense of self because everything is for public consumption, right? How do you develop who you are if you are constantly seeking external validation or being told who you should be by strangers or fans online? I just can't imagine.
Or feeling the pressure that your family's livelihood
is based on,
you showing up for the camera every single day.
Yeah, well, because when the lawsuit came about, the channel was demonetized. I don't know if it was remonetized, but it was demonetized, and therefore, you know, they go to other avenues as they talk about in episode 3.
Right. So again, that's Bad Influence, The Dark Side of Kidfluencing. Highly recommend.
On Netflix.
On Netflix. Trigger warnings.
All over the place.
All over the place, but especially the 3rd episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's we need to know about these things.
Yeah, we need to know about these things.
What do you wish you would have known before you went down this path of being Mom Uncharted, if anything?
Oh my gosh. I think for me, the hardest, being a former young girl and seeing what current young girls are dealing with. I had no idea that there was this world where parents, specifically mothers, were hypersexualizing their children and selling exclusive content via third-party subscription sites. And then on top of that, learning when they go off those subscription sites onto encrypted places like Telegram and Discord and seeing those forums. You know, I've had to make police reports. I just didn't know how dark it got. So in a sense, I wish I had a better understanding of what was happening on social media so I could have been a little more prepared for what I would see and what I would find. But I also feel happy that I was able to uncover that and assist mainstream media in telling these stories so society could see that this is happening.
100%.
You know, I don't think Meta was very happy with me, but
Too bad.
too bad.
They should have done a better job of stopping
I
it.
know. It's still happening, by the way.
By the way, one of the things that you surfaced that shocked me, and it shouldn't have, was just the Amazon shopping wish lists.
Oh, wild, eh?
Oh my gosh. You'd go to
Mhm.
these parents'
Yep.
Instagram accounts or the child Instagram accounts they had set up, and creepy, mostly men,
Yep.
will click that Amazon list
Yep.
and buy outfits
Yep.
for those kids to wear.
Yep.
And they are gross.
They are a lot of Nike Pros, bikinis, swimwear, heels, inches. I don't know what.
Leotards, makeup.
I don't know what 12-year-olds are doing in those 4-inch heels and things like that. And then I found that some would wear the shoes or the outfits and then thank, their followers online. It's giving predatory people the ability to dress up these little girls like dolls, which is their dream. And parents are allowing it.
They're facilitating
it. And I also have found that a lot of these parents, there's one in specifically I'm thinking of, they live a very comfortable lifestyle. Like they don't need to be, no one needs to be doing this. But when you see like affluent people like exploiting their children like it's some kind of hobby to them, it gets really strange. And I think sadly a lot of these mothers are living vicariously through these daughters because they didn't get the attention. They didn't get to be the influencers. They didn't get to do all this stuff. And somehow it's like filling a sick need within them. It's awful. The things I have uncovered in that world are just horrendous.
If you'd like to, and I understand why you wouldn't, what are some of those things that you have seen that we haven't talked about yet today?
Specifically in that world?
Any of it. Like
okay, so
the
I
things
think
that, like, I want people to be like, I want people to share this episode with other people and be like, I can't believe this. You didn't know. I didn't know this. This is happening.
So these mothers will sell content of their children. I've seen as young as like 8. Honestly, I've seen toddlers
Babies.
too. Yeah, I've seen babies too. But in regard to like seeing the photos that are being sold, I've seen like 8 to 13-year-olds, usually in leotards, swimwear. And then what they do is a lot of the males who are buying these, they start to build a relationship and take it off the platform. And now the parent is on Telegram and they are offering specific sets for what this individual is interested in and selling that kind of like black market online.
So whether it's feet or waist
full
up
body,
nudes.
Very suggestive content. Usually not fully nude, but very
close.
Very close and very inappropriate. And these little girls think they're influencers. They don't
models.
They think they're models. They think they're actresses. They think they're influencers when really, some of their base is like 90% grown men. And these parents can see the demographics. If I can get a hold of your demographics, you can see your demographics. So you know exactly what is going on. And it's atrocious. It's atrocious.
And I believe you and I are both connected to Paul Rafile, either personally or on LinkedIn, etc. But, your efforts, his efforts, many efforts have surfaced, and I don't think it's fixed yet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Meta, specifically Instagram, surfacing these child accounts to predators because they know predators would be interested in following them.
Yeah.
They're serving these child accounts to predators on a platter. They don't have to do that.
Yeah, that's in their suggestions. Those algorithms are so strong. We see it every day. I referenced going to Mexico with some girlfriends. I had been on Instagram looking for some bathing suits, right? I'm getting a new bathing suit. And within literally minutes, my whole feed is what I ate in a day, how to get a flat tummy, how to get a toned butt, all of this. And
my
it was
gosh.
like some magic thing. And I'm just thinking, if I was a 14-year-old girl who, looked too long at influencer in a bikini, what would my feed look like within minutes? Right? And if it's happening in this way, it's happening to all those individuals who are looking at children online. They're looking at videos and their children, and then their search bar is videos and children. And I get a lot of pushback in regard to people saying, well, what about the creeps? What are we going to do about the creeps? You're talking about the parents who are exploiting the children, but what about the creeps? And I've been talking about this stuff for a really long time, and you've been talking about this for a really long time. And have you figured out a way to get rid of all these creeps on the internet? Because I personally haven't. They can get kicked off and they make a new account. They get kicked off, they go somewhere else. I don't know how to rid the internet of these predatory people. So the best thing I can do is teach parents how to protect their children.
100%. Well said. We can't keep predators fully off the internet.
No.
But what we can do is continue to raise the areas in which these platforms are weak and can do better.
Yes.
If Bark can create a smartphone that doesn't allow children to take nude photos or videos,
love it.
Meta, Google, Apple can do more to prevent algorithmic and other communication mechanisms that put adults in touch with children that shouldn't be.
I know.
Period.
Well, and honestly, they should have been doing this a long time ago. But the problem is they look at our children as products. They look at our children as products, and they look at them as future customers, and they're not out there for their safety. They're out there for their bottom line.
I'm right now on Instagram just searching for bikini teens. I hope I spell it right. Bikini teens. I'm a creepy dude. I'm into teenagers in bikinis. And here we are.
Easy.
And that's mild.
Yeah.
That's mild.
Yep.
Now, Instagram with other hashtags like, let's say, cutting, suicide, anorexia, they've actually been proactive about surfacing instead of content, like, hey, here's a hotline you can call. It looks like maybe you're searching for something that might not be good for you.
Yeah.
Why have they not done that around sexualized content of children?
There's so much sexualized content on there that kids just don't need to see. We had referenced, or I think I referenced, the Bop House earlier.
Oh, yeah.
And that can show up on 8-year-olds' feeds. You know what I mean? It just doesn't need to be shown to kids.
No, it absolutely doesn't. And I get it. It's a fine line between free expression, self-expression, actual models who make money from modeling bikinis because they have amazing bodies and they're adults and good for them. But the problem is when you and I and millions of other parents see things that are glaringly wrong, and then we go to report it to Instagram, and then Instagram has the gall to say this doesn't violate our community standards.
Yep.
The hell's wrong with you?
Yeah. I very rarely get any assistance from Instagram on anything. Comments regularly come back not a violation. And Instagram also, like many platforms, state that kids under the age of 13 should not be on their platform.
Hello?
Do you know how hard
Hello?
it is to report a minor on Instagram?
Right.
It's not as easy as clicking this person is under 13. It's well, what's your name? What's their name? What's your association to the child? They make you go through hoops to try and report a 7-year-old making videos in their bathroom secretively with, a bunch of adults following them online. It shouldn't be that hard. And then on top, they allow this loophole for parents to exploit their children, because if they have parent run or managed by an adult, then it's fine. But is it fine?
No.
I would argue it is not fine.
If Mark Zuckerberg's daughters had pictures of them in bikinis posted on Instagram or Facebook, with the creepy comments underneath, you better believe he'd have somebody working on that. If Adam Mosseri had daughters, I think he has 3 sons, same thing.
Yeah.
Evan Spiegel, if his children were sextorted on Snapchat, things would change. But we're just not there yet, and the laws currently do not hold these platforms or executives accountable for the harms happening to children on their platforms, and that needs to change.
And the executives also don't have their children on the platforms, which is something to make note of. Isn't that interesting?
Telling.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, very telling.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Sarah, we could talk for a very long time.
Oh, I know we could. I know we could. I got a lot to say.
And I'm glad you do. I'm grateful you do. Because of your work, more parents have been convicted. They are now more aware.
Yep.
Changing behavior.
Yep.
Myself included.
Yep.
More children are going to be safer online and their reputations because of your work. So just a huge thank you.
Oh.
Is there anything that we did not yet cover today that you're like, I really want to put this out there?
The only thing I want to really implore parents to pay attention to is the advancements in AI. I think parents really need to be paying attention to AI, whether it be chatbots, whether it be Nudify apps. These things are happening,
Yes.
and they are going to not only affect our children in the short term, but also trauma in the long term. You need to do your research. You need to be paying attention to these things, because if you're not right now, no one else will.
Exactly. You are the strongest advocate for your child's safety.
Yes.
Do not rely on the government, the school,
No.
et cetera, to protect your kid. In fact, speaking of schools, our technology is used in schools as well. And we recently, it was reported in the news. We don't disclose these things, but when the news does, we can talk about it. The news recently disclosed how a teacher at, I believe, an elementary school had been taking pictures of students using a Nudify app to change them into nudes, CSAM. And thankfully, Bark caught that media being uploaded to the school drive. And thankfully, that teacher is no longer teaching. So it's happening.
Yes.
It's happening.
Honestly, every day we hear these stories, right? And they don't even have to make news. I hear personally stories in the community. Just pay attention, parents. Really pay attention.
Pay attention. And if you or your child, if you're worried about your child having been the victim of actual CSAM or generated CSAM, you have options.
Yes.
You can contact NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They have an amazing website called Take It Down.
Yes, they do.
Just Google it. You can reach out to your local law enforcement, especially your ICAC unit, that's Internet Crimes Against Children. They are there to help you. Do not need to be afraid of them. They are there to help you.
Yes.
So don't suffer in silence. And even if your child has had AI-generated media shared about them, not actual photos of them, it's still a form of abuse.
Yes.
Please consider getting your child some therapy to help process that. Reach out to your child's pediatrician. They've probably already had to deal with this and have some good referrals.
Yeah. Great advice.
Thank you. All right. So if we haven't addressed something and you'd like us to address it, wherever you're watching this or listening to this, drop comments. We're happy to chime in. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We are online.
We chime in, all right.
Yeah. Be sure to follow Sarah at Mom Uncharted across all the platforms. Check out Bad Influence, the dark side of kidfluencing. And if this resonated with you in any way, shape, or form, and you think more people need to hear this content, share. It's not about us becoming more famous or getting more follows. No. It's about protecting kids.
Definitely.
Awesome.
100%.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.